I've labeled this flight Lat Long Global 1990. 1990 is when I designed, verified data for curved approaches. We designed and coded and validated for the FAA. American Airlines were generous enough to allow me to use my work to present the data to the FAA, and we did. And we laser tracked our approach in the curve and found that it was extremely successful. And Lat Long Inc. at that time actually started flight management system line selectable approaches. The history starts with my company and myself, Captain Peter Cutsey, Lat Long Global now, and at that time Lat Long Inc. So we are called, our flight today is called Lat Long Global 1990, depicting the 4th of December 1990 when I copyrighted work. That is the design, coding, and validation of information into the databases that go to Honeywell, Collins, and other database companies from which most people get their information. So we're just coming up to Teterboro, entering the hold, and once we enter the hold, we'll get clearance, exit the hold, and start our descent. So we'll set a lower altitude now in the window for visual approach, 500 feet, and 518, but run it up to 600 for reference. Follow your company SOPs, of course. This is a demonstration flight, and you'll find that most of what I am saying and using for procedures is followed by most air carriers worldwide. Mention here that this was copyrighted in 1990, and the license is required for all users of FMS, and should contact myself at Lat Long Global. So you can issue a license effective 1990. The weather is well above minimums for the stadium approach, virtually clear. We're using actual conditions, actual temperature, actual QNH for the Newark, New Jersey weather. And today is the 29th of March, 2026. And remember, I started all of this in December, the 4th of December to be exact, 1990. Almost 36 years ago. The reason why this happened in 1990 is I felt that the world weren't using the FMS to its fullest advantages, and in order to save fuel, time, and increase flight safety, I actually started a company called Latlong Inc. in 1990, and now Latlong Global. And as I mentioned before, incorporating the format in which the databases around the world in most aircraft are loaded. Not the coordinates, but the formatted logic, speeds, etc., and how the information is presented to database servers such as Honeywell, Collins, and GE and other companies around the world. Contact me and we'll discuss issuing a license. We'll enter the hold, and once we're downwind of the hold, we will set up for an hold exit, and we will be configured at that time with gear down, flaps 15, and speed brakes armed at that point. Because of the very short flight in a visual environment, we get fairly busy. I'm by myself on the flight deck. It's a reason for the delay in adjusting the heading to our track. So we're going to go outbound now. Technology we're using here at my station in South Korea is X-Plane 12, FAA approved, incidentally, for flight training. We, Latlong Global, at your invitation, will come into your training center and help you get established with this type of technology. Training centers aren't required, except for full flight. Millions of dollars savings. We do it online here, FAA approved. We do all types of training, HUD training, initial training, pressure courses, low visibility, you name it. My name is Captain Peter Kutze. I've logged more than 30,000 hours of actual flying time and more than 18,000 hours in the simulator and counting each day. I train pilots around the world, crews, to their company SOPs, ensuring that they adhere to the SOPs, aircraft handling and auto flight, aircraft handling and manual flight, crew communication, leadership and teamwork, situational awareness, problem solving, and of course, workload and time management, the core competencies. We're going to configure now for an exit hold. Exit hold is armed. So let's go direct to Teterboro now. Gear down. Flaps 15. Brakes armed. Set flap 15 speed. A little premature with drag, etc. But I'm by myself on the flight deck, just wanting to make sure that we are configured properly. Set the MDA, and we are in VNAV path, and RMPA and X. Gear down, flaps 15, speed brakes armed, open the speed window, and the missed approach yet to be set later. So these items are basically done 2 nautical miles before the descent. Here's our path, vertical path, all set on the nav display. So as I mentioned before, this would gear down, flaps 15, speed brakes armed, would come just 2 nautical miles per hour to Teterboro. So around this time, we would do the configuration of 8 items, as I mentioned. The MDA is set, VNAV path, down flaps 15, speed brakes armed, open the speed window, and the missed approach will be set. We've set the FMC to configure with respect to the altitude constraints at Gimé and Hillock and Slimmer respectively. For VNAV path still, which is what we want. Top of descent is coming up ahead here in 2.5 nautical miles. Here it is here on the screen, as we can see. And very shortly we'll launch the FMA and we will call out and ensure that the autoflight systems are doing their job. Top of descent in 1.25 miles. Follow your company SOPs on what to set for minimums. We set 518 on the barrel and we set 600 here on the MCP. So FMC speed, nav path, and we're starting down. Here's our path here. We're on path, vertical path and lateral path. The landing descent procedure and checklist, the approach procedure and checklist, landing procedure and checklist completed, set for the missed approach altitude. In our descent, on profile.
2500.
Bridge altimeter live. This is the actual wind prevailing at the time, this time, in Newark. We've been assigned a missed approach altitude of 3,000 feet. Set. Landing checklist, except for landing flat. Now we'll configure our landing flat. Ref 30 plus 5. Set.
Gas and feed stabilized, Mr. Approach altitude set.
This was the turn, incidentally, I'm just going to pause the simulator. This was the whole reason behind Lat Long Inc. in 1990 and Lat Long Global today. This is why I was hired, and this is why the FAA relied on my work with American Airlines to bring aviation into the future. Runway visual, landing.
Flaps.
Okay, let's just stop it
Flaps.
here.
Flaps.
All right, there's the runway, visual, lined up beautifully. And depending on your company SOPs, you could have disconnected now or whenever you have the runway visual. But the whole idea of the autopilot and auto throttle, etc., is to ensure that we use all these features. And that's why Lat Long Global and now Lat Long, I should say, Lat Long Inc. in 1990 and Lat Long Global today created what you're looking at. Let's just go to a night scene. However, this wouldn't be flown at night, not allowed, but just to show you the accuracy of the wonderful FMS with respect to the Poppy. Just there we are, two red, two white. And
Approaching minimums.
welcome to the future of
500.
aviation.
Minimum.
This is what we're all about here at Lat Long Global. Call me, contact me. Let me help you bring your company into the future. Captain Peter Cutsey, South Korea. We're in Newark, New Jersey, flying an approach that I coded and designed, coded, and validated over 35 years ago. Thank you for watching.